Did you know that the unanimous scholarly consensus confirmed that the Bible that we read today is not from God? It does not contain the words of God. It wasn't written by God, nor was it written by prophets of God. This is the unanimous scholarly consensus. The books that you read today in the Bible were written by human hands throughout various centuries apart from different eras and from different periods. Let me give you a hint about the history of the reconstruction of the construction and the compilation and composition of the Bible, starting with the Old Testament Bible, or referred to as the Hebrew Bible. Um, Scholars agree that the the first five books of the Hebrew Bible, which they attribute to Moses, were never written by Moses at all. As we all know that Moses lived in the 15th century BC, and he died around this time between the 5th century and the 14th century. Yet the first five books of the Bible that we read today were reconstructed during the post-exilic period, during the Persian period, after after the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem and destroyed the first temple and exiled all the Jews to Babylon. This era, this era that follows it is referred to as the post-exilic period, where the Jews were exiled. And this is exactly when the Persians conquered all this territory, and this is when they allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem between the 6th century, between the 5th century and the 4th century. And this is when Ezra, one very famous priestly scribe, returned. He returned between the 5th century and the 4th century because there are different views regarding when actually Ezra lived and when he returned to Jerusalem. So Ezra is credited for initiating the reconstruction of the Torah that we read today, along with a number of priestly scribes that worked on the religious texts with him. And he is claimed to have returned to Jerusalem in the 5th century with a copy, the 4th century, with a copy of the Torah that we read today. But of course, the reconstruction and compilation of the five books was not finalized until the 2nd century. So between the Persian era and extended during it was initiated during the Persian era, and then it extended to the Hellenistic era. And the Hellenistic era started in the year 323 BC. So during this time, the Jews reconstructed the first five books of the Bible, along with different other books that we see in the Old Testament today. Yet it wasn't until the Hasmonean period within the Hellenistic era that they started attributing the first five books of the Old Testament to Moses, and claim that Moses is the author of these five books because they were influenced by Hellenistic culture, which attributed their books to famous people, so they wanted to gain credibility, so therefore they started attributing the first 5 books of the Bible to Moses, and this is when they started referring to these first 5 books as the Law of Moses, or the Pentateuch, in the 2nd century, between the 2nd century BC and the 1st century BC, during the Hasmonean period. And of course, it was the book, the first 5 books, or the current Torah that they have reconstructed, was never canonized until the 1st century AD, not BC, after the Maccabi period, after the Hasmonean period, and after the Herodian period, and of course after the destruction of the Second Temple, which happened between the 8th and the 7th century. This is when it happened, in the 1st century, the second in 70s, in the year 70 or 72 BC. This is the first AD, this is the 1st century. So the canonization of the books of the Old Testament only happened after the 1st century, and many scholars also claim that these books were never officially and formally canonized until the emergence of Christianity, and this is when they canonized the Old Testament books, along with the New Testament books that were written by humans as well. So as we can see, the Torah of Moses, the Pentateuch that we read today, was not written by Moses. It was written during the Hasmonean period, and it took centuries to be compiled and reconstructed by various unknown authors, claimed to be priests and scribes, a process that was initiated by Ezra, and these books were never canonized except up until after the 1st century AD, or the 4th century AD, when they canonized the entire Bible between the 4th century and the 5th century. Therefore, for you to cling to the Bible and claim that every word in the Bible has to be taken literally and assume that it is from God is madness, because it wasn't written by God, it wasn't written by Moses, it wasn't written by any prophets of God, it was written by human hands. It was altered and corrupted after it had been reconstructed from parchments and fragments and oral tradition. And this is why scholars have attempted to come up with various hypotheses regarding the origin of the Bible, such as the documentary hypothesis, which claims that the Bible had 4 sources from different eras and different periods, different styles, different names attributed to God, and different laws. Others, like the supplementary hypothesis, claim that it had 2 sources that were combined together. Others claim that it was composed and compiled from different fragmentary religious text, and this is referred to as the fragmentary hypothesis. And of course, there is the oral hypothesis, which also confirms that the Bible was reconstructed from oral tradition. And these last two hypotheses are the most logical. The fragmentary hypothesis and the oral hypothesis. This is how the entire Bible was compiled and reconstructed and written from fragments of religious texts and oral tradition, because the original Torah, the original Pentateuch of Moses, never survived antiquity. It was lost long time ago. This has been confirmed in the Bible various times, and therefore the Bible that we read today is not from God. So when Muslims tell you this, you should not take their words for it. You should do your own research so that you would not contradict the unanimous scholarly consensus of Jewish and Christian scholars.